Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Monday Motivation Podcast with Keegan Jewell. I'm your host, Keegan Jewell. If this is your first time, I'd like to say thank you for tuning in. Thank you for checking us out this morning. And just like to give you a little bit about what this podcast is all about. Here, we're all about coming together one Monday at a time to reach our full potential. That means one Monday at a time. Each and every Monday, we're going to come out with a new episode. So hit subscribe, hit follow, whichever platform you're listening or watching on. By doing that, you'll get a notification each and every week, every Monday when a new episode comes out to check out. Coming together every Monday, one Monday at a time to reach our full potential. All of us have a purpose. All of us have a calling in life. Um, and I just want us to be able to use Mondays to kick off our week right on starting this week, what can I do to draw closer to my purpose, draw closer to my calling, or even go further into that purpose or calling. So that being said, let's get into this week's episode so we can come together one Monday at a time to reach our full potential on this week's episode of the Monday Motivation Podcast with Keegan Jewell. Welcome again, everybody, to the Monday Motivation Podcast with Keegan Jewell. I'm your host, Keegan Jewell, and this week's episode comes from something that's a little bit like we've talked about before. I know we've talked about, why are we doing what we're doing? And talking about how the why is so important, because once you know why you're doing what you're doing, why you're doing something, it'll help the how and the what. Like I said, we've talked about that before. So if you haven't, go check that out. It's really one of the first episodes of this podcast. But this comes, like I said, a little bit like that, a little bit different. But it's who are you doing things for? Who motivates you, right? Uh, when we look at it, and when we think through it, and really at the heart of everything, there is a reason. Not even necessarily a reason. There is someone that we are trying to impress, someone that we want validation from as we're doing things, right? Sometimes it's, if we live in the corporate world, sometimes it's so our boss can notice us, even if it's not the corporate world, maybe just your job in general. It's, I want my boss to notice me. I want people to recognize the good I'm doing. I want to make my parents proud. I need to prove it to myself. Um, Whoever it is that you're doing things for, um, you've got to know, you've got to know really who that is. Because by knowing who you're doing things for, it can kind of help in those tough spots when you feel down, when you feel confused. Um, because when you have that set right, maybe it's to prove to yourself that you can do something. We'll use that as an example real quick. If your motivation is so I can prove to myself that I can do these things, that I can make it, that's not bad motivation. And what I'm saying here is use that to your advantage. When you're in a pinch, when you're stuck and you're like, I don't know if I want to continue doing this. I don't know if I can do this. I don't know what I'm doing. Think back and go, okay, you know what? Why, why do I want to do this so bad? You know what? I'm trying to do this so I can prove to myself that I can do this. That can be such great motivation to continue on and push through things, because you want to be able to prove to yourself that you can do that. You don't want to let yourself down. And if it's other people, that's where obviously it can be helpful, but it also can get very tough, and kind of get hairy and all that. If you get so focused on trying to prove it to other people, yes, that can be a motivation, because again, you're stuck, you're trapped, you don't know what to do. And you're like, you know what? I'm doing this so I can prove to these people, to this person, to that person, to my parents, to my boss, to my coworkers, to my friends, whoever it is, that I can make it, that I can do this. They doubted me. I'm going to prove them wrong. And when it comes to proving them wrong, I think that's the best spot to look at it. Because if you're doing it just to, get their validation, that's going to be tough, because chances are you're always going to be doing things to try and get other people's validation, and it's not going to work well. You're going to drive yourself crazy. You're going to drive yourself to exhaustion. You're going to drive yourself insane, and it's just no good. But when you're using it as a motivation to, you know what, I want to prove something, I want to prove them wrong, then it gets a little bit easier, because then you're like, you know what, it's not I need to do this, otherwise they won't think that I'm good enough. But no, it's, you know what, I need to do this so that I can prove them wrong and show that I can do these things. But also, it's just a good thing to remind yourself when it's for other people, even if it's for yourself. Um, it's okay to say, I couldn't do this. We're not all going to be able to do things. But at the same time, even if you have to fail right now, doesn't mean that you're going to fail in the future, right? You may have gotten that one down. You may have not been able to do that one. It's all right. It's okay. Learn from it and just acknowledge it. And just, if it's other people and they're going to say something, be like, yeah, I couldn't do it this time, but I will get it. I will get to, there's that calling that I know that's what I'm called to do. That's where I'm supposed to go. Some people are going to look at you crazy. Some people are going to think you're insane. But you know what? You got to know, again, you've got to know the why of why you want to do it. And also, you've just got to remind yourself that in the end, if you're doing what you love, if you're doing what you know you're passionate about and your purpose is in life, if you're doing that, you don't have to really look for validation from anyone. Do it to just prove, if anything, do it to prove. If you're going to prove anything to others, do it to prove to them that this is what you're supposed to do, right? If you feel like you're supposed to start something up, right? A podcast, a brand, a business, a nonprofit, whatever it is, don't necessarily do that to prove to others that, oh, see, I could do it. No. Do it to prove to them that this is what you're supposed to do. So that those conversations aren't, I told you so, but it's, see, this is why I pursued it so long. This is why I pursued it so fully full of passion, because I knew this is what I was supposed to do, right? Some moves in life aren't going to make sense to other people. Some moves aren't going to make sense to most people. But you know what? If this is something that you've had on your heart for a while, go for it. Do it. And as you do it, remember who you're trying to not necessarily receive validation from, but who are you trying to show that this is what you're supposed to be doing. If it's yourself, that's where it comes in. You know what? It's going to be tough. You may feel like you can't do it. But that's where you just got to remind yourself, you know what? I know I'm supposed to do that. I know this is what I'm called to do. And just remind yourself of that. And if it's other people, then make sure it's not looking for validation, but looking to show them why. Show them why you are doing that and why you knew that that was what you were called to do, why you were pursuing it so wholeheartedly. So just remember that. Work on that this week. Focus on that this week. Let that be your focus on when you may get down, when you may get frustrated and things may not be going your way. Just remind yourself who you're trying to show that this is what you're supposed to be doing. And let that kind of give you a little bit of energy and passion again. So we've got this is another episode of the Monday Motivation Podcast with Keegan Jewell, where we come together one Monday at a time to reach our full potential. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, follow button, wherever you're on. And go ahead and feel free to follow on Instagram as well if you've got that at Monday Motivation Podcast. But until next week, have a great week. And just know that I'm rooting for you, whether I know you or not. Every single listener out there, I'm rooting for you to be able to do what I know each and every one of you are called to do and have a purpose for in life and a passion for. So I love you all, and I will catch you guys next week.